We're back, and we are back here, and a lot to discuss here in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the platform where all music and wrestling matters here. Sportswire Radio for round two of our matinee. After all, we are making up for it and some, missing the last 2 days, and I promise you, we got one here for the ages because we last before we came on a little while ago had on D Get Bundles, who, let's just say, wrestles in OVW, been in the ring with this guy and that guy. Well, D Get Bundles couldn't be doing what he's doing in the ring if it wasn't for our guest and guys like him. He's going to tell us how he sets it all up and how you might even see him coming up here this Monday night on Netflix. I'll get into that. We'll talk about his journey with that. And we'll talk about him being the third man of the three-man crew, or the three-man booth, you might want to say, of the Indie Vision CEO podcast. And, well, let's just say almost like two live crew. Well, they're three live crew. They're definitely as bad as they want to be. He'll let us know why, and he'll talk about maybe some other things, some other topics, his own journey. I might even have an announcement for a former Indie Vision Wrestling podcast guest that's going to come on to this platform who hasn't been. So we know it's not going to be Godric Sandwell. We know it's not going to be Dave Jameson. He's on Facebook Live right now. I'm not even going to get into the middle of that. I'm going to save that for Facebook Live. But I promise you, I'll have an announcement for somebody that has been on his show that's coming onto mine that's never been here. Plus, we'll talk about, I'm sure, some other names. We'll talk about some other topics, as I stated. And in the famous words of Def Leppard frontman Joe Elliott, let's get rocked, baby, because I do see some people here in my chat that are waiting for it. And even though he might be as nervous as he says he was off the air, I don't think he's going to be nervous anymore because he doesn't have to do an intro like me. I got to do this every time I come on here. There was one guy, as a matter of fact, that was on my show last with D Get Bundles that was saying, come on already, let's go. And he was complaining that I was trying to be like Michael Buffer. Well, guess what, buddy? I'm going to keep doing these intros because Rhino liked it, Savio Vega liked it, King's X frontman Doug Pinnock said I'm going to turn into, well, Metallica's James Hetfield. And our guest right now is like, let's go with it. I want to hear it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this show off in style on Sportswire Radio, the number one global radio station where all music and wrestling matters. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, Sports Show. A man who you might want to say is the third man of the three live crew of the Indie Vision podcast. A man that does it all, inside and outside the ring, you might want to say, and who's also celebrating a birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is, simply put, the birthday boy, Kevin from Happy birthday, and my friend, how are we doing?
I'm out of breath, and I didn't even say a word. Jeez, how did you not pass out during that, man?
Well, all right, I'm going to tell you a couple things. First of all, before I got to the intro, I definitely stumbled upon a few words. Forgive me because I did this 2 hours ago with D-Get Bundles. And a reason I have not passed out yet, because one time I was on the air about a year and a half ago with at the time, general manager for an independent wrestling company in the UK, and I was doing the intro, not quite to where we are today, but I was doing it, and I clutched my chest, and I thought that was the moment I was either going to pass out or have a stroke. But then I went back up, and then I was like, oh, okay. And then I kind of for a day didn't do the intro. But then it was like, all right, frig it. If I go, I want to go like the way Ric Flair always says, dying in the ring. I want to die on here. And I've been doing it ever since. And my voice, as you could tell, is a little rough because I've been sick since Sunday, which is why, not because of Ampo the Destroyer attempting to destroy me on the air for some things. Maybe I asked him about on Monday show. I'd just been as sick as a dog, but I was like, we got to go on. The show must go on, and I'm a little better. But the reason I haven't passed out is really my old uncle would always tell me repetition, and I think that's what's carried me through. And Rhino said he wanted to run through a wall when he heard this. I had Doug Pinnick of King's X, because I stated, compared me to Metallica's James Hetfield. Randy Jackson of Zebra looked at me like, oh, that was different. And D-Get Bundles was fired up, and I had on Savio Vega was like, that was different, and that was impressive. So that's my long answer to a long-winded intro. Let's just put it that way.
If I even attempted half of that, I'd be on the floor and then interview over. Just done.
Well, you got to remember, I'm from Brooklyn, and everything in Brooklyn's done differently, and my growing up was done differently. I remember yelling loud and running down the block, and I was telling D-Get Bundles about, I was always, when I was playing sports, announcing and broadcasting, and I'm used to it. That's my thing. Listen, I covered college basketball. I never forget the coach of the basketball team at the time brought me into the locker room, and he goes, "You're the greatest hype man." That's what I'm known for. My political career, I was the hype man that got everybody going. And basketball, I did basketball. I was the hype man. And, my time in this wrestling world here on Sportswire, and I'm kind of the same thing. So if I don't do it, it's almost like it's either go hard or go home. And that's what you get.
I mean, similar thing here in Pittsburgh, though. I mean, I live in a neighborhood that either you're going to hear, can't say the word, but pew-pews, depending on how you
if you want to say it, I'm just going to go like this.
But you can either hear that, fireworks, or someone screaming bloody murder. Just for no reason whatsoever. Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, I almost got mugged a couple weeks ago, and I carry a taser and I carry a mace with an alarm loud enough to wake up the entire neighborhood, which I did. So, I get all of that. But no, listen, there's some people I know now. We're going to talk about your podcast, and if you know, even though Titan and Tommy Horror have been on here, but I want to get your perspective. But I will say most podcasters will go, well, it was very nice to meet you. What was your goals? What was your favorite WWE moment? How would you book? And what was your favorite wrestlers? And that's just not me. That's not my character,
That's
not my personality.
Either.
No, but a lot of the average, and again, nothing wrong with them. Everybody has their, way of doing things. But, there's going to be some people that don't like this. Other people love the war chants. Other people love the long intro. And, it's Sportswire. We're in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, baby. 1,500 plus subscribers. Been on blabbermouth.net, not once, not twice, 3, but 4 times. And that's just what you get.
I mean, I feel on those ones, it's very cookie cutter. So before Tim and Tom came on to Indie Vision, it was started out with one of my childhood best friends. His in-ring name was Eric Johnson. He was very much a personality manager.
Not to be confused with the band Mr. Big, by the way, because they had Eric Johnson in there, just so you know.
The one, Cliffs of Dover, Eric Johnson, that's why he did it. He used to play a lot of Guitar Hero back in the day. He goes, that's going to be my wrestling name if I ever get to it. And
to be with you, that was definitely more than words what you just told us, but go ahead.
But me and him were sitting down one day, and we had stumbled into YouTube a few times.
Okay.
I'm not going to bring that up because we'll probably get heat with some of the things we said, but it was because we played a booking simulator game called
Okay.
Total Extreme Wrestling.
Okay.
Some people are very familiar with the series, but so we got cocky, like, hey, we look this like you can take over companies and stuff, but we're like, hey, we actually don't do a bad job, and there actually is a viewing for this, so let's do that. So we did, and it's actually a big community, believe it or not. The fantasy booker stuff is very much
Well,
a big
I've done
community.
promo. I've had promo wrestlers on here, which they have their own like role playing thing. I've had some of that, so I'm kind of familiar with some of that because they kind of book without wrestling each other, but they're
Mhm.
sort of doing that. So I kind of grasp it. Yeah.
So we started off doing that on YouTube years ago,
Okay.
and from there we kind of just saw creative differences, and we're like, listen, we're too good of friends.
Booking creative differences. Get it? That I
Yeah,
done.
yeah, we got to use the big time terms. We're on prime time. We can't shorthand this.
No, we don't do that here on Sportswire. We
So
definitely do things differently. Yeah.
so we just said we're gonna just be friends. We're just gonna pop out of this, and then a few years gone by after that, I stumbled upon a wrestling school, which we're not gonna get too much into that. Long story short, it's just we're gonna leave. It's best leave sleeping dogs lie. We might get
Yes.
into a
Yes.
little bit later, just a tiny bit
Sure.
more, but for now, no.
Yeah, I got the point because we were here Sunday, and I see one wrestler here that had to come out with a statement. A few other people came on. Yeah,
Yeah,
I got.
it's a whole ordeal, but I
Yeah.
found this school and I told him about it. I actually started going to train about a month or
Okay.
two before him because he was more flaky in terms like he was like, "Well, I work, I do this," and I'm not.
Yeah.
This isn't an insult to him when I say this. It's just more like he was always like, I went to a few classes before I even got in the ring, and then I
Okay.
told him about it. I just wanted to make sure it was legit enough that he'd be like, "All right, let's do this. This isn't just some dude's backyard. It was at a legit building, legit ring,
Yeah. Yeah.
legit."
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything. So we got into that as my cats knock everything over in the distance.
Well,
Summit.
Tommy Hart was here, and his cat, and Courtney's cat have been certainly not big fans at times of the intro or something else. So why not your cat have a personality
Oh
about
no,
being?
they're just they can't hear you at all. They're just
Oh, maybe
naturally.
that's a good thing. Maybe they would have been turned off. Maybe that's a good
You
thing.
might have chased them out of the room. Might have been better.
I'm not surprised. Listen, I mean, was it Tommy Hart's cat was apparently supposed to be the meanest cat in the world, and
It is the
Courtney's cat.
nicest cat in the world, Tom. It just doesn't like Tommy.
I'm not going to comment on that. Tommy was gracious to come on Sports Wire. He had a lot of people here, so I'm going to
We
plead the
we
fifth on
love
that
we
one.
love we love Tommy, but it's even more fun to mess with Tommy because his reactions are golden every
Well,
time.
now that he's a free agent right now, I'm sure many people might want to mess with him and maybe complain about some of his booking decisions. Who knows? But
Or
I'll
use
leave
him as
it
a
at that.
manager. I heard he's had some managing experience with the Genophage and a few other
Yeah,
different
he's had some
actions. So
definitely big things with La El Shaddai and other places. We talked about him with Ampo. He's got some history with Ampo. So yeah, he's got a lot of history with a lot of people.
and then he could, and if you don't want him for his managerial skills, you can book his band. Keep that in mind.
We talked a lot about his band because it opened up for bands like Avenged Sevenfold, Newfound Glory. We'll definitely get into some of the band stuff because I'm about to land another band. Yeah, I was thinking before I'm never going to get a band again, and then all of a sudden I take a nap and I might get another one. But so you had interesting journeys. I didn't know this. So you were doing your own kind of thing, and then years later you stumble upon doing the Indie Vision podcast now
Yeah.
with really Tommy and Timothy Titan. And I mean, how's it been like now getting back into it now this time?
So with it, we did a few episodes, me and Eric ended up leaving the business to go into politics. He's currently running for a position of in his county.
Oh, well,
So he,
ironically enough, that's actually been what I'm most known for locally back home. I've been doing campaigns for since I'm a little kid.
yeah,
Okay.
he's running for a school board, so he's currently busy with that. I think he may be listening, he may not. I don't know. I told him I
Well,
was coming on, so hopefully he's listening because there is a nod that without him, Indie Vision wouldn't exist
Well,
because
hopefully he knocked on some doors before he came on here, and hopefully, if he's out there campaigning, make sure you have a Google Drive or a voter file, and you're identifying voters, and you're touching your voters at least more than 5 times. Just giving him some political advice for free. You're welcome.
I'm sure he'll appreciate it, completely forget it, and move on. No,
Well, I knocked on 15,000 doors in one year, so I know his pain. I wore out 6 pairs of shoes one year, and the candidate I worked for lost, so I understand the
yeah.
pain.
He's a character is the best way to put him. If you meet him, you'll like He's one of the kind of people where he gets really excited about something and he wants to do that,
Yeah.
and then he just stays on it. So when we got on the idea of like, hey, a lot of the times on these indie shows, there's a lot of people on them that have to. Either they're trying to get their stuff in, whether storyline wise, or it's just not. You can't cover it in that little bit of time. It's not
Right.
WWE or AEW. You don't have 3 hours to go ahead and
No.
put out content. So we're like, so here's what we're going to do, because he was working with a company up in, I believe they were in Rhode Island,
Oh wow.
called
Okay.
Never Quit Wrestling, or I
Hmm.
forget, it was something. I know you're around that area. You probably heard. I don't know if they've rebranded or something like that, but
Yeah,
I,
I feel like I've heard the name. I mean, I've heard the name because in Rhode Island there's not many wrestling companies, so
yeah,
you
it
do.
was like Rhode Island or somewhere. It's in the area, and he was doing stuff out there. So he goes,
Yeah.
I got this guy that I've been talking to. His name's Logan X, and you were talking about doing another project together. Why don't we just do a podcast, or at least put out wrestling content in general? And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's give it a shot. And so I was like, just let me take the creative head on this one, and if we don't agree on something, we like flip a coin basically on what we're going to put on there, what we're not going to put on there, because we'll argue for 3 weeks about something and never get a single episode done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what happens when you're best friends with someone for many years. But
Yeah.
so from there, what we did was we went on and we made the channel. We did that first episode, and we were terrible. I was so uncomfortable
Everybody's
in front of the.
terrible in their first episode. Let me tell you something. When I started this 6.5 years ago, similar story. A buddy of mine that I was friends with for we were I was in just out of high school, right around then. We did our show and we did it on SoundCloud through a Skype call, and all we did was like. My friend was like, "We're going to record an hour." All right, we did 59 minutes and 56 seconds. My palms were sweaty the whole time. I was nervous. I had a stomach ache, and we talked about like all we did, I think, was talk about baseball and the Baseball Hall of Fame. Go back and everybody's first episode. You got to start somewhere. So I mean, you're not going to have Godric Sandwell on the first episode. You're not going to have on Dave Jameson, shooting boom, 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 bang, bang, bang the first episode, or Brohemoth. You got to start somewhere, man.
It's that finding that chemistry, and me and him are good friends, and we started to pick it up towards the second episode. I believe we had Derek Wayne on, who is
Okay.
outside of character is one of our closest friends. So it was like
Okay.
talking to a friend, and we knew the stories, we knew everything that's going on. I don't want to out him too much about his character, you know what I mean, or anything, or out
Right.
of kayfabe. But we
Right.
had him on, and we kind of were like, okay, well now we're a little more comfortable because it's not a stranger in essence. Because that
Yeah.
first episode
I
we had
think
a
that's
stranger
kind of
on.
the way, you know what? That's kind of similar. Like I remember when I was doing the podcast and what it morphed into today, I would ask my friends, my buddy Anthony Finkel, who's got a band now and just played, he's now going to play in Virginia. He came on my show. My buddy Steven Saperstein, who ran for office and lost three times and lost once, won once and lost 3 times. He came on. I would ask, friends of mine. I think because you feel comfortable with them most. You don't want to just go and start right away with somebody that you might be nervous about or followed. So you go with the people that you know, and also those are the kind of people that'll probably share the link and that people tune into. So I've been there. I get it.
It's definitely it's a comfortability thing. Those of you might not know watching our podcast and seeing me here now, I mean, you might be able to see it. I have terrible stage fright. I have
Well,
never liked public
great Def
speaking.
Leppard song though. It was a great Def
Yeah,
Leppard song.
but I do not do well with being in front of a camera and stuff like. I did stuff on Twitch, but I always did no face cam, all stuff like that. I was a
Well,
Twitch
that was
affiliate.
like the guy that came on Friday where nobody watched. I had a promoter because my guest just canceled. I don't know why. And the promoter just came on with no video. I mean, look, you got everybody's nervous somewhere, but you're here now. So almost have to get over the stage fright. You're here
And
now. I mean,
weirdly enough, so something else we're probably going to talk about more when we get more deep into wrestling and not the lore of Indie Vision that we're going into now.
I
But
gotta promote it. I gotta get
no,
people
I
to
know,
in.
no, I know. But here. So doing the Money Mark Media show,
Hmm.
I asked him. I was like, listen, I did most of the make sure the card was where it needed to be, talk to the people we need to talk to, make sure the ring's good, ring crew stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
which again, ring crew stuff, for those of you who don't know, were the ones who usually set up the posts,
Which I'm going to ask you
put the
about in a few
boards
minutes.
on.
Yeah.
But so I asked him, I said, "Hey, I kind of want to try something. Could I ring announce for the Indie title match?" We had the legendary Hank Hudson, and
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God, Hank. Yeah.
but I was like, "Listen, I want to do this because I can't progress as a person or persona, character, whatever you want to call what I'm doing here, if I'm terrified to be in front of a crowd."
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest, it didn't
What?
make the clips, but here's literally what I'm ad-libbing what I had said when I grabbed the mic, and I had explained to Hank because even he was confused for a minute, like, "Your guest ring announcing?" "Yeah, Hank, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, all right? Just I got it." He's like, "All right, well, here's the list." And I look at Hank's list, and Dan Laser it was Dan Lasers versus Pepper Pride.
Pepper
For those of
Pride.
you who
Yeah,
haven't seen it,
I knew about it. We
it's
promoted on
on the
Sportswire.
channel,
Yeah.
yeah. So I look at the the run sheet he has for like their monikers, their height, weight, their billings, and everything
Yeah.
like that. And as I'm writing down Dan Lasers, I'm like, he's got like 4 monikers. And then Pepper Pride is just Pepper Pride, Detroit, Harpy Queen. And Dan Lasers has a small book written.
Well, think of
Just
it
Hank.
like Mick Foley had three personas and was sometimes from Builders, Long Island, other times Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, as Cactus Jack. I mean, maybe I guess maybe hype man Dan Laser secretly wants to be like Mick Foley, Cactus
Well,
Jack, you love mankind. I don't know.
Hank is adding stuff in. Every time Hank
Well, it's
thinks
Hank
of
Hudson.
something,
I think
Hank
Hank
is
Hudson people
adding
will
stuff
allow him
in.
to add.
So
Well,
as I
it's Hank Hudson though. To be
yeah,
fair,
but it's just funny because I'm writing this down. I'm like, he's the competitor. He's got more. I got more to say about the competitor than I do the champ. What's
well,
going?
he's a hype man. Well, duh, he's a hype man. I mean, as a hype man,
Exactly.
you got to hype yourself up. I mean, listen, that's how I had my political career. Kept getting gigs. They would call me the hype man. Basketball. I just mentioned that in the streets, I was the hype man. Mike Tyson had John Horn. He'd stand there and just yell and cheer. I mean, so hype man Dan Lasers is got to hype himself up because he's not Pepper Pride. Pepper Pride's Pepper Pride. She don't have to
She
say
was
anything other
calm
than
and
Pepper
collected.
Pride.
Yeah, she was calm and collected, and I get
You don't
it.
have to. She's a Rhino protege. That's where she
Exactly.
comes from. So she don't have to have 19 different names. That's my answer.
It's just I found it so funny, and so I'm writing this down. I'm like, I really hope I don't screw this up. I'm like, I really hope I don't screw this up. So I go in the ring, and automatically I found out there is definitely a way of doing this, like ring announcing and talking to a mic, like your mic there, compared to talking through this. I just talk.
Yeah, I had a guy on. I don't know if you know. His name's DVG. He does stuff in Maryland. He's done EBW Pro, ACH. He's done what's it? Enterprise Pro Wrestling, Amplified Pro Wrestling.
I know
He's done.
those 2 companies, yes.
Yeah, he's done stuff with them, and he would say that there's a certain way to do it, ring introductions, and and there's just people have their. It's like routine. It's like anything
Yeah,
else.
it's a routine. It's like a mechanic because, like, when you talk, and that people are gonna be like, "This dude doesn't know shit about anatomy at all." But when you
Yeah,
talk, like for me, I feel it from here. When you're doing that ring
yeah.
announcing and like singing, you feel it from down here. I'm not a
Well,
singer.
singers, listen, there are some singers that they warm up and they got to do their routine. They got to do their vocal exercises. Dave Mustaine famously used to say, they would ask him, so do you do anything before you go out there and perform? He'd say, nope, I just go out there and do it. I mean, Ronnie James Dio had his way of doing exercises. Sammy Hagar would do a couple, but like, it's just like a wrestler or in the case of a Hank Hudson or a DVG or Michael Buffer or Lillian Garcia or anybody else out there. You have your way, Justin Roberts. You have your way of doing things, and it's a lot more difficult job than people realize because you got to get the name right. You got to remember where they're built from, the height, the weight. You got to say the name a certain way. You can't just say, well, and first from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, hype man. You got to do it with a style, but not enough of a bravado, but not too much of a bravado because you don't want to kill your lungs in that case. Because you're doing it repeatedly for probably if it's 7 matches, you're doing it 14 times. So do the math.
I did it one time, and my voice did not come through very well. I tried my best. If I had to guess who I was trying to emulate, it was a mixture between Michael Buffer and Hank Hudson. And that's
Well,
a weird
good
combination you're
names
trying to
to
pull
emulate. That's some
together.
good.
And it came through, but the first words that left my mouth, because Hank gave me a special introduction. He ring announced the ring, a special guest ring announcer.
He's Hank Hudson.
So
Yeah.
that was fun. But then I go in there and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Kevin from Ring Crew," but that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the following contest is scheduled for one fall, basically. Because I had mentioned it was for the title and everything, but I was like, I want to get through this now. It's hot in this building. My
Yeah.
voice is not coming through this mic. I'm gonna try to get through this. My voice probably cracked 3 times. I'm nervous. It's hot. It was you see me slinking over there in my Hawaiian shirt right
I
there
did
with all
see
the
you. Yeah, I
colors.
watched it. I watched it. I watched
And
it.
then you hear it at the end of the match. You hear me come back in, and you can just hear my voice does not carry at all. I am so nervous. That's why
Well,
I can't even.
first, well, listen. You know what? You do it again, you'll learn from it. Listen, first time is always the most difficult time. So you'll obviously do better next time. Because of this, they'll probably definitely make you do more ring introductions, and yeah, but you'll have an approach. You'll figure it out. You'll get the hang of it. It's like riding a bike. I always remember my dad gave me a line once. It was with basketball, and I never forget. He bought me this basketball. I begged for a basketball one summer, and he was like, double basketball. It said double on it. It wasn't a Spalding basketball. We couldn't afford a Spalding, but it was double. And I never forget. He told me you're gonna dribble. He would call me from work. And he'd say, "You're gonna dribble that basketball. You're gonna practice. Are you practicing with the ball?" And it's just like ring instruction. You got to keep practicing, and you'll get it. You'll practice whether it's in front of the mirror, being here on Sportswire, talking to Hank, and whenever the next show may be, you'll do an even better job. And hopefully, for your sake, it won't be like 100 degrees in whatever building you're gonna be in.
Exactly. So the one thing I gotta stress, because you have it up here now, this is just crazy to me. An idea between two friends evolved into what it's evolved into. We're getting bigger names. We're getting people on. We have a title now that names like Pepper Pride is more than likely getting signed somewhere soon.
Oh, Pepper Pride. You know what? I tell this all the time as we're on here with Kevin from Ring Crew, celebrating a birthday, by the way. You're in the chat. Do me a favor. Wish him a happy birthday. He better not be nervous anymore because I do this every night. I got to do intros that are even bigger than, with all due respect to Hank Hudson's, bigger intros than he does. And my name is Tom Bryce. And if you are here, thank you for being back here in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage. And please follow the Indie Vision Wrestling podcast and check out their content. I'll have an announcement in a little while for a former Indie Vision Wrestling guest to come on here for the first time. But no, listen, you're going to get better with it. But there's no question that you guys have big names. You know, like I said, Pepper Pride is somebody that I knew before some of you guys were coming on here because of Rhino. I interviewed Rhino, and she's wrestled in IWR. Some of my friends have been there, Sam El Jami, James Fury, and I know the school that she comes from. So Pepper Pride, yeah, we're not even going to know her in 6 months. It's going to be like, yeah, I remember you. I saw you somewhere. You'll be in the women's PWI 100, and you'll be somewhere else, and
Either
that's why, yeah.
TNA, AEW, WWE, whoever comes a calling, someone's coming calling. That's a
Yeah,
guarantee.
absolutely. I mean, she's got the look. She's free out of central casting. She moves well in the ring. She's definitely somebody that's got some charisma. And I think she's going to go places. Yeah, I mean, done. I mean, consider it done. I mean, there's no question that you guys
Yep.
picked a great champion. What a great champion you have to represent the company, by the way.
I will say though, the amount of feathers she goes through every match she works, you just find them all around after the show. I'm like tucking them into my pocket, giving them back to her at the end, like, "Hey, here's your feathers."
Well, I
Giving
guess
her wrists.
she'll have in common what superstar Billy Graham went through, Jesse the Body Ventura went through with feathers or feather boas, whatever they called them. But yeah, what a great champion though to represent the company. I mean, to have someone like this, and she wrestles all over the place. This is the definition of a professional wrestler, female or male, whatever you want to determine is who wrestles more. That's up to you. But this is somebody that is the definition of a professional wrestler representing your company. That's very impressive.
It again, it's still a shock to me because again, something that started out as a hey, let's just do this for fun has now turned into something that eyes are on. From a championship belt to championship bouts on
Yeah.
other people's shows or
Hmm.
our own show, like teaming up with Money Mark and Tim.
Yeah.
Like this was never in the cards for me. I never thought this was possible. I thought
Well,
it was going to be just a podcast. We talk. We might get a couple views here and there. Like, I thought, like, 5 people would watch this stuff and just upload little things like the exclusives where, like, TMZ style, we just walk up on the talent and just
I
get
saw
them
some of
on the
that. Yeah, that was
spot.
fun. Yeah.
It was just ideas to see what would stick. And then for it to EJ leaves and goes his own way, I call up Tommy Horror. I'm like, hey, I don't want this to die. It's starting to get a little traction. Would you be my new co-host? And he goes, yeah. So we were starting to plan stuff, but then we're like, we're not sure yet. We feel like we're still missing something. And that's when Tim Titan was like talking about he wanted to get into podcasting. I was like, oh, Tommy told him like, hey, me and Kevin are trying to bring back his podcast. How don't you come on here and we'll do it? We'll do a run with it. And he's like, all right, sure. And, we've been having a lot of fun. We just did an interview that's going to be coming out. I mean, spoilers, but also not spoilers. We just did an episode with Joshua Kavad,
That's a
which
good one. Yeah, it's a good
me,
one.
in my opinion, it's very powerful, very well spoken, and it's definitely going to be one to watch.
That's
And
exciting. That's exciting.
it's probably going to touch some people in a way because it does deal with religion a lot, but that's him.
Yes.
That is him.
I'm a
It is him.
reverend, I mean,
Yeah.
some religion. I know, listen, you get Bundles came on here just before, and he talked a little bit at the end of the show about religion. Now, listen, everybody has something that makes them unique and makes them special. And listen, that's somebody that people talk about here coming onto Sportswire. But unfortunately, as I was explaining at the end of my show at D Get Bundles, I don't even ask people to come on. It's kind of like I'm inundated. It's almost like, yeah, you're here, you come there. It's like pulling teeth because it's just the wavelength. So, but that's awesome. And I think also, and I've said this when Tim has been here, and Tim's going to come back on here next week because Tim's always got something to say, and Tim's a
Oh,
draw.
Tim has a lot to say, and we listen. Tim, I met Tim years ago, like
Okay.
years ago.
Yeah.
But when I was first started in that training school, and then whatever happened aside back then, I didn't see Tim. So when Tim started coming back to the shows and me and him started BSing again, I said, Tim, you were there. You taught me how to sunset flip.
Wow.
Tim Titan taught me in my training how to do a sunset flip. I'm 6'2", like over 200 pounds, doing sunset flips. That's big in Pittsburgh. So
yeah, I mean, anybody to do a sunset flip, it's a big deal. And the fact that he taught you, I mean, and now you're hosting a show with him. What a small world.
And that was a move I was terrified of learning in the training because I have training in wrestling. Don't key that. I might just be ring crew, but obviously I'm trying to be a wrestler. So
yeah.
You don't want to just. I'm a kind of person that doesn't like where I am. I want to be somewhere else. In essence, so if I'm here, I want to be here, and then here and here
But
and
that's
here.
interesting. You said something. I want to go back to it for a minute because yes, you obviously are in the wrestling world. We talked about doing ring introductions. We talked about the podcast for the last few months, but you're a part of Ring Crew, but you want to transition to wrestling. And I think that's fascinating because, as I stated, I have a background. I've covered college sports, and I would get guys come on that were basketball players, and some of them would have to figure out the transition because when you're a college basketball player at the level I covered, you weren't going to the NBA. So it was kind of like, well, what's my transition? My transition would be maybe I would want to do coaching, or maybe I'd get a gig somewhere at some basketball school or some kind of place, maybe even do refereeing or trying to stay in the game. And you were kind of wanting to do the reverse. You've been in the wrestling world for a bit. You've obviously done some ring introductions we just talked about.
I've also refed some dark matches too. Those I hope those never see the light of day. They were
We have the lights on here right now, so don't worry. Nobody's really going to be dark at the moment. But you really want to transition to wrestle at a full-time level. But why not just stay doing Ring Crew? You seem to do a good job, I hear.
So I've always wanted to be a wrestler. I was an amateur wrestler. By the way.
Very different.
Yeah, very different. It's a whole different animal when you're learning how to do something that's basically a mixed martial art. Because people in the UFC, wrestling is part of it.
Absolutely.
And the MMA world. If you don't know how to wrestle, you have no ground game. Good luck. You better finish everything on your feet. You ain't gonna do nothing. That's
Yeah.
why I watch some of these UFC fights, and I'm like, well, that guy just knows how to punch and kick. I mean, they're the professionals. They still knock me out just by breathing on me. But it's definitely one of those animals that it's that muscle memory kicks in. You got to go. You got
Yeah.
to stop.
Repetition. Listen, it goes back
Yeah.
to my uncle always said repetition, repetition. He's like ace, repetition. So yeah,
And so with that trend, I've always wanted to. I've watched wrestling since I was a little kid. We all have that itch that we want to scratch. Like,
yeah.
can I do this? I don't want it to be a what if. So if I have the ability to be a wrestler, I'm going to do it. I'm physically capable of doing it. And plus, that ring is freaking heavy. It is
Well,
heavy.
also, you know what? Another thing I think that's interesting. So you've obviously been somebody that's an integral part to what we see. Without you, we don't have a wrestling ring. So you're actually one of the most important, or if not the most important person. You can look at it and say maybe that your fellow colleagues and wherever you're going to be a part of these shows, they might respect you more than almost anybody else that attempts to become a wrestler, right? Because think of it this way, right? If you want to become a wrestler, you've either got no experience, you're maybe doing a podcast, or maybe you just, for whatever reason, played another sport and you decide you want to continue your chops and maybe use this as a way to maybe get your foot in the door somewhere. But you, because of what you've done, helping put together rings, tearing them down, being an integral part of these shows, all these colleagues that you've known, they look at you like almost, well, why aren't you wrestling? What's wrong with you? You do this stuff, you're here longer than anybody else. So maybe in a way, you get the most respect of anybody else that really wants to attempt this at a full-time level.
There's a lot that goes into this. So I do this for fun and as a job. So as you can see this,
Yes.
so my one of my shoot jobs is unloading trucks and ring crew stuff when wrestling comes to town. It's not just ring crew stuff. It's also concerts and any live events that come through Pittsburgh. We do everything from plays to concerts
Oh,
to
wow.
ballet to the Steelers training camp, the company I
And
work
you
for. I'm
got a
not
Bears thing in the background, though. What's the
Oh,
matter with you?
listen. My dad's from Naperville, so he
Ah,
likes the Chicago teams. I won't make that mistake. Naperville's not Chicago. It's a suburb. It is not
ah,
Chicago. But my dad went to high school and everything, lived in Naperville, so the Bears are my second favorite team.
because
Realistically, I'm a college football guy. I like the Steelers, but the University of Pittsburgh's my team. Hail to Pitt.
well, hopefully
That's
you
me.
guys have a little more success this coming season. Let's just put it that way.
I hope any of my teams have success. Listen, I know this is a different type of sports, everything we're talking wrestling and music here, but give this to you straight. Why I'm so focused on wrestling right now.
Go for it, please do.
Pirates suck.
Oh, the
White Sox
Pirates are
suck.
just it's been a
The
generation of
Steelers
dead.
just signed Aaron Rodgers, and that's supposed to be our savior. The
Well,
Bears don't have a lot going on. It's a
the
mess.
Bears are bad. Yeah, the Bears are bad. I mean, the Steelers will go 10-7 and flame out in the wild card as usual, and
Exactly.
the Pirates will be bad for the next 10 years. The Penguins won a couple Stanley Cups, but these last few years they've missed the playoffs. So, yeah, it's a bad time to be a sports fan in Pittsburgh. Yeah, that's for sure.
It,
My
it
condolences.
it's an interesting time. That's why the University of Pittsburgh, although they lost out the rest of their season last year, at least I have a chance. They've won a title in the last 3 years, so I'll
Yeah,
take
you,
that.
you, you, and you're in a conference you could win a championship. Yeah, fair play. But so, what is a day in the life of somebody in ring crew? What is a day in the life of someone in ring crew?
So, do you want it to be? Do you want it to? Okay. Do you want it to be when with the indie wrestling, or do you want it to be with the shoot job? Because they're
Where are
both
you?
completely
Well,
different
where are
animals.
you going next? Where are you
So,
working next?
well, where I'm working next, because there's no shows this weekend for me. Monday Night Raw is coming to Pittsburgh on Monday.
Oh, what a small world! Maverick's going to be there, but he's not going to be at ring crew. He's going to be watching, and he's going to talk to me Tuesday about how he saw you somewhere.
Oh, funny enough. So you'll see us, but we're always in the. If you watch the backstage segments and you see them walk through like a loading dock or something, you'll
Yeah.
see us hanging out back there. They usually blur out our faces, but we're there.
Oh.
I have been in the. I have ruined so many WWE promos just doing like this in the background because I'm bored. Like just waiting for them to be done with the show so we can pack this stuff up and go. I have because they don't have a TV back there. You can't watch the live feed. You get to see the workers, the wrestlers walk back and forth. I mean, I've said hello. The door they go out is right where we're at. So
Oh wow.
Kurt Angle has said, "What's up, guys?" They're very appreciative. Like you said, even on that level, for some reason, the workers like the Street Profits and Bianca one time
No,
were
I
leaving.
think they would because I know this from the bands that they're very appreciative of the people that set the shows up. I just know in the music world, I know like the bands I've had on talked about this, and I know that they appreciate what you all do putting together these shows. So I know even at that level, I think it's the same way as the rock guys that come on Sportswire. I would think the WWE types, you mentioned Kurt Angle, obviously Pittsburgh's native son, that they would still feel the respect toward all of you because it's such a big show, especially on that level of a WWE setup. That what you all do, it's extremely
Oh
vital.
yeah, I'll be there at 5 a.m.
I believe it. I believe
It's
it.
it's an early. It's not usually that early. For some reason, they're going in early. I think they're filming Raw and SmackDown to give the
Yeah,
talent the 4th of July off.
yeah.
I think I'm not 100%.
Because
I
it's a
just heard.
Friday. July 4th falls on a Friday this year.
Yeah, so I think that's why. I think they're going to be recording Raw and SmackDown. So they have twice the stuff they got to bring in to switch out the
Yeah.
stage stuff. But so yeah, like when it comes to the wrestling, they're very like Rhea Ripley just walks by and goes hi, and then walks like that. Like if you're a fan, you're just like, that's really cool. And you get to see how a major federation works compared to like the indie companies. I, as an indie worker, they don't know who I am. They're never going to know who I am. But I know who they are, and I get to see
So
how they're
what's the
interacting
difference
and
then
stuff.
of putting together a WWE, AEW setup than doing an indie show? What's the differences for the
All right, the
audience?
difference is there's far less people helping you set up the ring in an indie uh, setting. The,
Yeah.
the WWE things come on these massive set carts. You're not carrying the individual board. You're just pushing a couple ton thing down the hallway, and right out there, and their guys take over. The professional ring crew guys take over. So you help them do all that. And it's most of the time, if you know, Little Nate actually helps tear up and set up the rings.
Oh, Charles
Still,
Robinson. Okay,
yeah.
wow.
Charles
Oh,
Robinson has posted it on his socials, but I've seen him do it as well.
wow. That's
He
pretty cool.
everyone's on deck. I mean, they like to keep their stuff, especially if they're setting up for a spot like a break the ring or destroy the announce table or tear the skirts off. They put like 5 like canvases on, so it's a lot different. They have a lot more disposable things between every match. They change out the skirts in the canvas a lot in a WWE or an AEW setting.
So it's easier to put together a show for a WWE or
I don't
AEW than an indie
I
show?
wouldn't say it's easier. I think there's more hands on deck, and there's more things that if I accidentally tear the canvas on an indie company or I break the X cable, we're screwed. I
Yeah.
have
Oh,
I have
yeah.
had I was testing the ropes for a company once and the X cable snapped on me. I almost fell backwards out of the ring.
I
So
covered it. I've done UK wrestling. It's funny you said that. I have covered a company that had that happen with they wrestled the show with like the rope with the cable was broke.
oh, we've had the ring snap in half. Like not completely in half, but like one of the side mountings snapped.
Yeah, yeah,
So you
yeah.
couldn't work this whole corner. And we had to tell them that, and we tried to piece it back together with ratchet straps to try to hold it in place. That's not happened just once. That's happened
Oh,
twice
well.
to me.
The show must go on. That's
You know how unnerving that is when you're the one setting up the ring and it just snaps and they look at you like, so what do we do? I don't know. I really don't know.
but in
Anyway,
WWE there's always a but in WWE and AEW there's
They
always a
have
backup.
they have welding equipment on the trucks. They'd be able to fix
Well,
it like
I think
that.
they're because they have to be prepared. You're talking about $1 million
Yeah.
weekly budget. You're talking about $1 million program that they put on weekly. So you're talking like you got to be prepared for everything. Whereas you're doing an indie show, it's like,
You,
listen,
you
this better work.
yeah, this is the hand you're dealt. You either make it or break it. Figure it out.
So
It,
what's it like? So what's the difference then between when you're on ring crew for wrestling versus when you do music? You said you do concerts. So what's that
yeah.
experience like?
I want to fight a majority of the roadies that I deal with. That is
My
how
cousin
the
was a
difference is.
roadie. I was telling you this a few weeks back. My cousin was a roadie. had to have been maybe 15 plus years ago for Bret Michaels of Poison. He got lucky. He got a gig. He blew it because he was on drugs. He's an idiot. And he was a roadie. We worked with Bret Michaels, who's from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, in case you don't know.
I've
And
lived a bunch of different places in PA, but I'm
yeah,
familiar.
yeah.
But I like Poison.
But yeah, well, don't talk dirty to me on here. I'll just have to censor you. But
Oh,
definitely, every rose does have
hey,
its
Eric
thorn here.
Johnson popped in.
Well,
Sorry.
every rose has its thorn here. So unskinny bop your way to the chat and wish Kevin a happy birthday. So what's the difference? So what's it like doing music though for Ring Crew? What's for these concerts? What's that like?
So the thing with concerts is, first off, if WWE's ring is heavy, double that with amps and speakers. Like
Oh yeah, obviously. You're
we
talking about
do stadium.
The Marshalls. Oh my
Oh, I
goodness.
hate. Oh God. We just had. Hold on. Let me think of who it was. They were at Acrisure Stadium, so where the Steelers play.
Okay.
Heinz Field, to any red-blooded, breathing Heinz ketchup eating Pittsburgher out there. It'll always be Heinz. Don't tell them Acrisure; they'll flip. But no. So I forget who was it. Who was it? Who was it? Who
You
was
talking
it?
about Jelly Roll? Yeah, Jelly
No,
Roll.
Jelly Roll was here. It was AC/DC. AC.
Oh yes, they just did April and May. They
Yeah.
did
So
the like a 13-day
AC/DC
tour.
just came to town, and one of their trucks were these like Marshall amps they've had since they debuted on the scene, and it's a
Hmm.
whole truck full of them stacked, wheels down this way. Sorry, where's my camera? Wheels this way and wheels this way. So you have to flip this heavy amp down to its wheels before you can move this. It's a whole truck full of just the heaviest amps. We didn't have enough guys to work for the company, so we hire a temp service. This is just
Oh
a fun
wow.
little anecdote. So we had this guy who's never done this job before, so we have to show him, and he sees the AC/DC cannons come off, and he's like, "Hey, those cannons work." To the roadie, and he goes, "I mean, they fire pyrotechnics. What are you asking me right now? Of course we wouldn't carry around cannons that do nothing." It's like, dude, have you seen an AC/DC show? It's for when for those about to rock, they go fire,
Yep.
boom. It's like, so it's a lot of fun. You get to see a lot of interesting sets. Like ELO, when they
Yeah, let's
came, had that, like, they have a whole ordeal. They have a spaceship set. Uh Jelly Roll came, he had a whole thing where it rains, but it also has fire around it, like rain pours
Oh
down
wow.
on his head, but then it like fire shoots down just below him, so it's like he doesn't get caught on fire. Like, there's some crazy stuff and setups, and then you realize, oh no, I have to unload that.
Yeah,
Travis,
people when you watching right as a fan, you're seeing ACDC. I mean, on that magnitude, you're thinking, "Oh, wow, this is great." But to be a part of that show and to put that together, I mean, that's obviously like it's just very difficult. It's a long day, I would imagine, for sure.
it can be, depending also which truck company it is. There's so many rules and so many different setup
Well,
ways.
isn't it also, by the way, isn't it after 11 o'clock, if the band's still playing, that they have
They
to
get
pay
fined.
more because
Yeah,
of union
Madonna.
dues, right? Yeah.
Madonna just went on tour, and she was late, not as late for us, but she was
Yeah.
late by like an hour for her set. So
Yeah.
she went like till like 12:30, and she got fined. But like the show before that, I think it was up in New York with you guys. She was like 3 hours late,
Yeah. Well,
so she got really big
I guess
fine.
she vogued her way to where let's just say she became a material girl, and that's where those fees came into play there. Let's just say she'll I'm sure her bank account can vogue those fees. But I always heard that because Eddie Trunk always used to talk about that if you were a big band and you were playing after 11 o'clock, and I think it's the same with WWE, that if you go on and you're on past 11, you have to pay the fine because of I think the union stuff, right? Is that
It
what it
has
is?
to be, yeah. So my company isn't union that I work for, but
Okay.
the stagehands that we work with are union.
Okay.
So they have different rules than like my company does. But it
Okay.
has to do with that and noise, the noise ordinance of whatever city you're in.
Ah.
That
Well, I
also
know.
plays a factor as well.
So I mean, but so it's more difficult to work a concert than a wrestling show because of what
It
goes
is.
into it.
Do you know what's worse than a concert though? The circus.
Talking to me right now.
No, the circus.
Oh yes, I. You know what's fun? I knew that because in New York they don't. they're not allowed to come here anymore, but they would have Barnum and Bailey Circus, and that was like that would take them days. I remember when they would come to the garden wouldn't like you're talking days wouldn't come in. You're talking like 10, 11 days. You couldn't touch the building because it was intense to put that all together. You couldn't do anything with that.
Between that and just how long it takes the packing up, because they micromanage everything. They want to
Yeah.
make sure everything is good from here. So they may say this may only take 4 hours to load out, and you're sitting there for 12. You're just like, what happened here? Like 100%. You're like, what happened? Well, there was an
Do
issue.
you guys still get the circus? Because in New York, they're banned from coming
We
here anymore.
had them. We had
You have them?
them 2 years ago, I think.
And that was the most difficult stuff that you had to work with then.
That was a pain more so. Like I also like my company also loads the Steelers into training camp,
Oh,
and
well, you're
that's a
getting
whole
ready
week.
for that in a couple of weeks.
Uh, I make the most money I can that I take every day. It's an early start. I drive an hour and
Wow.
unload trucks, their whole weight room, everything, but
But
it's a
why do you want
blast.
to be a wrestler, though? Look at all these things you did. You want to be a wrestler? You want to go through with all
I
that? What's the matter with you?
I gotta do some stuff for myself. They're living their dream. The guys on the
But
Steelers
you're
are living their
helping them
dream.
get their dream. You're getting to be on the biggest stage, literally. Forget about this.
That's like with the Oscars, the guy wins it. And it's like, I want to thank my third grade English teacher for teaching me. Like, hey, thanks. Can I have a replica of that?
You know
No.
what it's
Okay,
like?
cool.
You know what it's like? You ever watch the movie Rudy?
Yes.
And the character there was what was Charles S. Dutton's character was there helping set everything up for Rudy. That's kind of like you guys, but still you're there. I'd rather just do that. Forget about being a
Yeah, the
wrestler.
silent. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
exactly. I
it's.
mean, that's kind of
But
you.
where's the showmanship in that? I like as much as I have stage fright. I love entertaining people, even if I was like
But
getting
you're
in trouble.
entertaining. But you're entertaining people through what you're doing without you're doing literally God's work. I mean, you were talking about religion, Joshua Kavan and D Get Bundles. You're doing God's work by without you guys. None of these big shows exist. You know what I'm saying? They don't exist.
And I get that. I everyone wants their at least 5 minutes. I feel like, or whatever the
Yeah,
saying
15
actually
minutes.
is.
It takes 15 minutes, I
15
think.
minutes. Yeah, everyone wants their 15 minutes, and I'm a person that doesn't really have much of an ego. I'm a person that usually goes with the
Well,
flow.
you can't have an ego by working these big things
Oh
by
no,
setting.
no, not at all. I was like I said, I have almost gotten into it with roadies because of their egos. They think they know
Well,
something.
the
They're gonna
rock
go there. It's
world,
not gonna
yeah,
work.
that's a
Yeah,
different
that's not
ballgame.
gonna work. Oh, I assure you it will. It doesn't work. What
Well,
happened? I told you,
I
jackass.
can say with the roadies, or the guitar techs, they feel like that they're a part of the band. They feel it's different. I think I could see the roadie or somebody that's a tech or somebody that's with the band traveling. I think that's different than like what you do setting up a show because those people are with the band and they feel like that they're in the band, but really they're not. But they feel like because they're setting everything up, they're putting the equipment together, they're during the show. If something happens with the guitar, something happens with the bass, something happens with the mic or the cable, they're on hand. They play the instruments, from time to time. The guitar tech can fill in for the band if God forbid something happens. So I kind of feel like that's why they get that ego. But at the end of the day, they're not the band. But I think maybe that's why they're with these people enough and they're traveling enough. That's from my knowledge of it. Maybe I don't know.
And that's the other thing. You say travel. We'll relate back. Why would you want to be a wrestler?
Yeah,
Well,
why don't I be a wrestler? Why?
it's a multiple thing. I like to entertain people. I have no musical ability. I have a guitar. I know how to play Smoke on the Water to just the
That's
just the
everybody learned.
annoying
The first
part.
one was
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Just the annoying part, that's not allowed in Guitar Center. Yeah, that
yeah.
part. But like I have no like ability that I have no singing ability. I'm a big guy. I played sports my whole life. I played football. I did amateur wrestling. And it's always been a passion of mine, whether it be as a fan, as a it sorry, I lost my train of thought, but it's back.
Well, maybe it's that stage fright there that got to you. I'm just kidding.
No, I was also looking at what everyone's saying. I already see
I'm
some
gonna
of
get
it,
to the chat in a few minutes. You've been a lot
but
more for a guy that said he was nervous as hell. You seem like you're pretty entertaining tonight.
I I'm forcing myself out of my comfort zone, and I feel that's the biggest thing. Like with like doing that ring announcing is to force me so that way it's like, hey, you don't have to just relegate yourself to being a member that helped set up the show. You can be part of the show.
Well, they do say that that's a part of it. You know, when I took speech and communications, my professor in college was like, "Well, you have to just get out. The only way you'll get over it." Because I was nervous. I took drama in high school for 3 years, and my biggest regret is I didn't really apply myself because I went to a high school with 4,000 students, and it was like, I didn't want to do it. Now I would have excelled. We were talking with you get bundles, and I've got some uncredited roles on shows, but I would have probably been at a higher level. But I was like, but yeah, but my in college, my professor, Professor Hill, she was like, you just got to go out there and do it. And I did it, and I kind of got over it. And it's the same thing. You just have to get out and do it. And you seem like you're going to do it, but I still say you're doing very well at the putting up these shows together, but you want to be a wrestler. And maybe you also feel because of your knowledge that you can do it, and maybe you can do it just as good as the people in the ring you're watching.
I mean, there always is that. I feel like everybody has that. I don't have much of an ego, but everyone's got an ego, and then there's super ego. We're not getting into Freudian and all that other stuff, but I'll save that for Godric Sandwell. Just don't tell
Yeah.
don't pull out a map. He might get confused.
Well,
I
he
love you,
goes through a lot
Godric.
of. Yeah. Well, we're gonna get to the chat in a few minutes, but
But
no, I get the point. I get it.
it's like you see something, you're like, no, 100%. I don't know what I'm doing, but I feel like if I did, it looks better than that.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that hits me. It's just the okay that I want to do that, and I feel that I can make it look pretty. I can make it look this, and
Yeah.
it's just that it's like it's going to sound really bad for a minute, but everyone hold on with me. I feel with wrestling, it can be something that can be very intimate for that person in the crowd. You go there, whatever reason you're there at the show, and you're watching, you have a favorite wrestler. You're going to watch every move they make, and even if they screw up, you might notice it, but you don't care. You're
Yeah.
there for whatever reason you're there. That's why we've always said on Indie Vision, there is a flavor of wrestling for everybody. I used to go to death matches. A lot my co-hosts, not a big death match fan,
Yeah. Yeah. He's
usually.
talking about it.
Usually. But there are certain people out there that love that. The ECW hardcore faithful still watch these things.
Oh,
Again,
absolutely. Look, I had Gary
people
Wolf on here. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. There's definitely.
Gary Wolf. He's still out there and he's working normal mat. He's still doing some of his stuff
Yep.
in the extreme world, but like there are people that eat this stuff up and they don't want to watch WWE. It's too
I had to get,
storyboarded
and
for them.
the complete opposite. The Get Bundles was on here tonight. Who's in OVW? Under the learning tree of Al Snow and Doug Basham is like, I want to go out there, and I'm just going less is more. He's like, look, I'm got 6 minutes. We ain't doing nothing crazy. We're going out there and we're getting through the match because less is more. So there are some people that want the frog splash, the 619, that want the crazy spots. There are deathmatch guys. There are your technical, old Bret Hart types, and you got your D-Get bundles. So wrestling, it's like that, like Dimebag Darrell and Vinnie Paul, God rest their soul, of Pantera, used to always say that there's 32 flavors. Like Baskin Robbins, there's 32 flavors. You're going to get all types of things. And then wrestling, it's the same thing.
It good actually tying this because this is going to my two loves. I love music and I love wrestling. Obviously tribalism exists across the board. There's always going to be someone who says, I don't like your type of wrestling you like, so it's stupid to me and I don't care. I'm not going to watch it. It's like saying, I like hair metal. That's not real metal and this and that. Or I like Ghost. They're not metal. They're barely even rock. I love Ghost. So
by the way, shout out to Ghost, because Ghost had the first #1 on the Billboard 200 heavy metal album in over 5 years, by the way. Like, people don't realize their album that just dropped last month. And
Okay.
I'm not the biggest Ghost fan, but when I heard they had the #1 record for the first time, I think since Tool's last record. Tool's last album came out in 2019. This is the first heavy metal record that hit the Billboard 200 in almost 6 years. That's a big deal. So
And
whether
that's
you,
yeah, it's the culture shift.
yeah,
It's very much a culture shift. Like I have a step kids base. I have three.
okay,
One's 17.
right,
He grew up. His mother is very much. She's music all over the place. She's every flavor of music. From me and her get in debates about this because she doesn't mind the Juggalos. I personally am not listening to their music.
well, we've had some people that were on Juggalo shows, so we're gonna say
Well,
God bless the
no,
Juggalos.
no, no. Like, listen, no. The wrestlers, like the
Yeah,
Backstreet Boys and Johnny Cashmere, love.
yeah,
I can't say enough positive things about my experience meeting Johnny Cashmere. Great guy. He gave me a lot of advice and a lot of help. He said his inbox is open to me. I've used it, and I can't thank him enough. He does not need to be that nice to me, but he's been a blessing. We're
yeah.
hoping, we're hoping to try to reach out to him to possibly make him the a special for our podcast. That's just we're hoping, but if it ever happens, you know Tim Titan will be on here singing it.
Tim Titan's on next week, so I'm sure he'll have something big to talk about. He always does. He's
But
a draw.
it's it's just one of those things for me that it's gonna always be music and wrestling always are intertwined. Because think about it,
They
WWF,
are.
WWF had well, WWE, whatever you want to call it, but they had the Rock and Wrestling.
I had Mark Farner on here of Grand Funk Railroad. We talked about Rick Derringer, who passed away a few weeks back, and Rick Derringer wrote Demolition Song, and he also wrote Real American. So you want to talk about rock and wrestling? Mark Farner knew Rick Derringer, who wrote Hulk Hogan's. Obviously, without Hulkamania, there's without Real American. You could make the case that Real American would not, with Hulkamania, wouldn't have been what it
That
was.
no matter what the man does, and I'm
Yeah,
going to say about the character of Hulk Hogan or Terry, whatever you want to, however you want to relate them. No
right,
matter
right.
what, that song is iconic for multiple
Yeah,
reasons. It was
absolutely.
written. Think about it in wrestling. Some of the best themes out there have been written by legit bands.
Motorhead wrote
Motorhead,
Evolution. Right,
Evolution,
Triple H
Triple H is the
play the
game.
game. Yep.
King of Kings. You have Drowning Pool doing Glass. No, that was Disturbed. Disturbed did Glass Shatters. Drowning
Well,
Pool
you had
did
Ultra Bridge did
Metalingus.
Edge. Yep. Did Edge. You had
Uh,
that. Yep.
well, I mean, Brian Danielson uses Europe's Final Countdown, except they have
Well,
to pay ridiculous amounts of money every time they use it.
Rob Zombie did Rob Van Dam
And
legally.
he
I mean, legally he
and
did
he
that.
also did one of Edge's themes for a while there because he
Yeah,
Edge.
yeah, he did. He did.
Well, that was one of his songs. They used it, but Slow Chemical by Finger
Yep.
11,
Yep.
Kane,
Yep.
iconic wrestling theme.
Da-na-na-na-na-na. Yep. Yeah,
I have that on
absolutely.
my playlist. I don't care who did
No,
the
but
rest.
I think the
It's a
point is,
great
is that
song.
wrestling and music, we talk about it all the time on Sportswire. You got to have something to come out to. You got to have something to get you going, whether it's heavy metal, whether it's hip hop, whether it's some type of song. You got to go out there. It's just like, listen, you see, and it's morphed into other sports. You obviously do stuff in football, and you see people have to come out to a song, or people play music. Music is a part of life. My dad used to always say, music. Without music, the world doesn't exist. And I think with wrestling, especially, you look at just everything that what wrestling has, music plays a massive role in that. And I could certainly see why that you like music in as much as wrestling. And
And very much with wrestling, the theme you choose is the audience's first. Before you even hit that curtain, the
mhm,
song you chose is giving the audience their first taste of what you're all about.
absolutely.
Like Godric comes out to Earth, Wind, and Fire. They know they're
Yep.
in for every. Let's get it. High energy, very much cool cat as he'd call himself.
Yes.
But you know when
Preferred
that
beverage and hors d'oeuvres. Yeah, get your preferred beverage.
horsepower comes out the Volbeat, Warriors Call. You
Yep.
know, all right, this guy's not playing around. He's here for a fight. Let's do it. Um, I don't want to, get us all in trouble, but with copyrights that we're using real songs, but it
Yeah, I can't. I if it's a royalty free, I can do it, but we can't play the.
no, no, we don't
the-
have to. I'm just saying, like when it comes to the indies, most of the time that we're too small for anyone to go after. Just don't tell Lars. Lars might.
Yeah, well, that was with LimeWire. Yeah, I remember Lime. Everybody would just use LimeWire, and that's what then Napster, and that's what ironically
So many
killed the music.
computers ruined.
You do realize, in a way, he was right, but he actually killed the music business because the downloads, what wound up happening because of that, record sales dropped gradually through the point to where they are today, where nobody sells records. I mean, that wound up killing them. Him going after Napster and LimeWire and all those other platforms 25 years ago. Some people here forget about that, but that killed the music industry. And that didn't just kill it for rock, killed it for everybody.
I feel with that one, he's justifiably right because he put out the work. They need, compensation. I don't work for free. You wouldn't do if you go to a job and you don't get paid, you're not going to want to do it.
No,
Doesn't
I
matter if
understand
it's
his
chump
point.
change.
His
Yeah.
his his point his point was well taken, but people just unfortunately just we're just going to keep downloading, and he might have closed these different companies, but it led to things like YouTube where no, you're going to just burn the music through their other platforms, and it's led to things like Spotify where sure the artist might be getting some type of cut, but they're not getting before what they were because nobody buys records. So at
See,
the end
I
of the
buy records. I'm the one idiot who collects vinyl still.
no, well, vinyl's different because vinyl is a collectible item. See, vinyl has made a comeback because people are. We talked about this with when Mark Farner was here. We talked about this when Mark Kendall of Great White was here with Brian Damage Foresight of Kicks. We talked about that. Vinyl made a comeback because there's this nostalgia feeling of putting this big, almost frisbee onto a record player. It's two sides and playing the whole thing. So that has made a comeback. There's a niche for that. But at large, people aren't buying CDs. People are, you're a diehard fan of the band, you're buying it, but that's it. It's not like what it was. 20 years ago, go back, and the number one record in America could sell hundreds of thousands of copies in a week. Now it's all streamed. So the artist, I know we're getting technical. We'll get to wrestling in the chat in a minute, but because I talk about this, and I have LA Guns coming on here. Speaking of hair metal, Corey, I have LA Guns coming on here next week. So they'll talk in depth about it. Their record just hit the top 50 in the Billboard 200. You know what it sold? Like 4,000 records. It's a joke. But the point is, the artists now, sure, they got legally Spotify, iTunes, and I'm not telling anybody not to download, but they're making nowhere near what they would make off of a CD. And they weren't making much money off the CD either. People think, well, $20 is a CD. The artist makes $20. No, they make, if they're lucky, $1, $2 off that. So you really got to sell
sold it. The people who pressed it. It all trickles back to it's like buying a shirt at the store. That store might charge you, maybe upselling you. That shirt may have cost $10 to make.
Exactly.
But they're going to charge you 45 because the amount of people they have to pay up the ladder.
No, they're not. You got to really sell. We had this technical conversation with Brian Forsythe. You got to sell 1 million, and then you got to do it twice. Then you make money. So, yeah, the music business, that's what it was. But no, there's no question that music and wrestling go hand in hand. So I got to ask you, so who's your favorite bands, Ricky, before I get into the chat?
Well, all time,
Yeah,
Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne. Right now,
I actually have spoken to Vinny Appice, who he played on the Mob Rules, which is not Ozzy, but he played on the Mob Rules Dehumanizer, and he played on the Heaven and Hell records. All right, a guy I've tried to get on, but he's Vinny Appice, a great band. But Ozzy's playing, quote unquote, one more show next weekend. There's one more show with Black Sabbath.
Listen, I'll put it this way. So,
are you going to work crew on that? Are you going to be on the music crew in Birmingham, England for that?
No, I wish. I'm terrified of flying.
Makes two of us.
I wish. Trust me. That's the one person. He was supposed to come to Pittsburgh once, and then he got really sick.
Ozzy,
he got really sick, and I was
always said that he's one of the most hit or miss acts to watch live because either he's so good or he sucks, because he's just, unfortunately, it's never like cut and dry. Some artist, every time you see them, it's like a 10 out of 10. Ozzy, it could be great or it could be
I have when I have seen a good bit of people, like some of the bands I've seen multiple times. I love Ghost, right?
okay. Yeah.
Ghost right now is my favorite. Just everything from the music for me to the lore, and it's like it's like a wrestling storyline playing out, but in music form.
Yeah.
It for
I
me
see
that
that.
that stuff I eat up. I've seen Slipknot a bunch of times.
Okay. I got
Uh,
Omen Black in the chat. He's from Iowa. Slipknot's from Iowa. There you go.
I've seen Kiss 3 times on a farewell tour, and I'm
Well, Kiss is
29 today.
retired. Kiss is retired so many times, and now they're quote unquote. They're saying they're retired, but they're coming back to play a show without the makeup on in the end of the year. I mean, you can't
It
make it up.
it's just that one is always fun. My dad's like, man, I've seen Kiss a few times in my life. All of them were farewell tours. I said, I feel like I'm
Well, they
gonna be
had the
doing the same
farewell
thing.
tour in 2000, 2001. Then they came back again and had a farewell. And then they had this tour, which was supposed to have been a farewell. Now they're going to play without the makeup, and they're going to play a show at the end of the year. But they're saying they're done. But you never know.
It they'll be back with the makeup on and give it as long as they're
Because
also
they
kicking
sold
it,
off the name.
they'll come back.
If listen, they sold it off to a licensing company. If the company says to Gene and Paul, you have to go out there and play because they need to make money, yeah, they have no choice. They're contractually obligated to play.
It that's the one thing that I'm like when artists sell like their discography or their whole library, like the whole
Which is what Kiss did. Kiss did that.
um the big one big one that I'm the most familiar with was the Beatles and Michael
Yeah,
Jackson and Paul McCartney wanted it
yeah,
back after Michael died
yeah.
and all that stuff. Like that was the one I was most familiar with. I'm like, that's the first I realized that artists could do that. I
Aerosmith
heard
did it
that.
also recently. Twisted Sister did it recently because what happens is, as we were with Kevin from Ring Crew celebrating his birthday, we will get to the chat in a minute. Plus, I have a gift for him. What happens is now you can sell your catalog to somebody and they'll make more money with it than if it was through a record company because why? They can license it through films, they can license it through TV, they can license it through other forms and they'll make a fortune. Listen, my dad always said that you made more money not just with a record, but by putting your stuff in film and TV
Oh, the
because it has
commercials?
to go over and over and over and over. And you get those checks through the
Can you
roof.
imagine the songs that get used in commercials?
Yeah, they make more money with that than the record sales.
And then especially if it's used in a Super Bowl commercial
Car
too.
commercial, car commercial.
Car commercials are the biggest ones that use
Yeah,
major license songs.
absolutely.
Uh I'm trying to now I got to think of
They
nostalgia
all
here.
do it. Motley Crue's done it. Van Halen's done it. AC/DC's done it. Aerosmith's done it. Twisted Sister's done it. They all do it because the money that you make, it's through the roof. You could be talking about $100,000 a spot to put your song in a commercial. Think about that. You ain't selling $100,000 in the year worth of your content. It's through the roof.
And then if you're an independent wrestler, you won't even see that money unless you're a major star in one of the feds. Like
No, well,
I can see the allure there because the money I could make up front by selling it to somebody, the money I could make up front from this sale might be more than I'd make just trying it on my own. I can see the allure of
yeah,
the money up front. And then eventually most of them end up buying it back. I
yeah.
think didn't D. Snyder buy a lot of Twisted Sister stuff back recently?
I thought that he owned it, but he sold it off to get it licensed for film and TV. That's what I
That
read.
might be it. I might be just misremembering parts of what I
Because
had read with
I was
that.
about 2 years ago. They did that, and they bought the catalog. It was a publisher bought it, and they can put it in whatever they want. You get like you said, the one lump sum check. You know, you think about it like if you're getting 10 million, somebody offers you $10 million, and you're 70. You know, it ain't gonna
Exactly.
be. You can't take the songs with you. Can't take the money with you. You know, and
So
that's what these
at
artists,
least
a
set
lot
up
of them go with.
enjoy what you get that you can actually use within your means and the rest for your family for who knows how long till it
Yeah,
becomes
and
public domain one
that's
day.
why they do it. But I got to get to the chat. My chat's been waiting, and they want to talk to you. And I know there's a lot of people here. I want to see him. And you were stage fright, nervous. You spoke a lot, so don't be saying that again. Speaking of people, Courtney Wood is here. You got to get Courtney on your show because she'll be on mine, but you got to get her on yours. And her cat's watching, and she says hello. How you
We also
doing?
have our dogs have the same name too. My dog's
Oh
also
well,
Roxy.
all dogs go to heaven. And speaking of people here, someone would like to
Oh
tell you.
no.
Well, um, obviously you've got certainly people that are obviously watching from afar.
So this one. No, I gotta address this one because
Address it for me.
Tommy keeps trying to make jokes. He keeps saying,
Yeah.
"We all know you're R.K. Sawyer's brother," and all that. I'm like, I want nothing to do with that psychopath. He for some reason likes me, and I don't know why.
Because you're a stagehand. That's why he wants.
He wants to but he doesn't say anything. He just kind of stares at you, and you're supposed to decipher what he's feeling through
Well, I have.
grunting.
Well, welcome to the neighborhood. The Meatloaf album. There you go. Well, obviously that'll be a topic throughout the conversation. I'm sure. Judo
Judo,
Jones. Somebody I got to get on here one of these days. Another add him to the
funkiest
list.
fighter right there.
Everybody's kung fu fighting there. Carl Douglas. So where are you?
Ox.
Obviously, Ox McQuay will be here Sunday night when Anthony Steele returns here. That'll be a conversation for, I'm sure, a lot of people are waiting for. But thank you, Ox. And Kevin from Ring Crew, from Mr. Tommy Horror. You're obviously second man of the three-man crew that you're a part of. And he says exclamation points. And Zilla is here, wants to wish you a happy birthday. I have a gift
Thank you,
for
Zilla.
you here in a few minutes. And hello to Ox. Hello to Courtney. And speaking of people that always have something to say, Mr. Timothy Titan. He's been a big topic of late. Check Facebook. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. I'm not even involved in that like immediately. It's just my full feed. Like thanks
Well,
to him.
I think everybody in Pittsburgh seems to be involved in it.
Oh, it's not. I can tell you right now, it's gotten a lot further than Pittsburgh.
I've seen it. I watch it on
It is.
Facebook Live.
Yeah, it's all over the place now.
Well, I'm sorry to hear. As I'm sorry it's all gone the way it's gone. Speaking of people that are here for round two, he wants to get bundles in the ring, but now he wants to see Kevin from Ring Crew. How you doing there, Mr. Godric Sandwell?
He's got like his own book cover of him reading a book.
Yeah, he does. And Tommy's car is part of Satan. I don't know. Oh, Tommy's cat. There you go. Yeah, his cat. Well, it's not about Tommy Hart. Thank you very much for that. And Tommy dented a title belt with my head. He technically did do that in the past. He definitely did. And I'm lost. Can you please order an Uber for him? You want to give him an Uber?
I had to do that for a random guy when I was doing laundry a couple weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, I ordered him an Uber just so he'd leave me alone.
Well, you know what? I'm carrying a taser and a mace around me because in my neighborhood, people just randomly yell at me. So it's kind of funny. Well, not funny when you're actually out there, but maybe that's what I'm not going to be doing is ordering them an Uber. But thank you very much for that. Also, if you are here, I see a bunch of people here. Hit the sub button for the Indie Vision Network show on YouTube. They'll have more coverage, and it gives me a great time to announce that July 8th, 9 o'clock Eastern time, a man that you've interviewed alongside Timothy Titan and Tommy Hara, Bro Hemoth is here. He's here, and he's got a lot to say. He wants to be here after what he heard from Ampo the Destroyer. He knows that Godric Sandwell's been here, Dave Jameson's been here, and he's decided now it's time for him to arrive on Sportswire Radio. And certainly that'll be one I am sure you'll want to tune into in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage. And there we go. Hello. And RK's learned to type. That's a good point. For someone that can't talk, they can type. So that is a very, very valid point there. There isn't even a path. I'm just on a ring road outside of town. There are lots of trucks, but none are stopping for me. That's like the Hitchhiker Ride. Ozzy had one of his songs. Was it? I'm trying to think. Was on the Greatest Hits album. It was Back on Earth. That's it. It was Back on Earth. And in the video, one of the scenes was Ozzy was trying to hitchhike for a ride, and that's kind of the point that JP is making for. But maybe you'll get the gig next week in Birmingham. Who knows? Maybe because of this.
With Eddie Luck.
Well, if you want to be a stagehand for like King's X or Kicks or maybe LA Guns, I can help you out with that.
We have some anything that comes through Pittsburgh. When it comes to the music scene, more than likely I'll be on it within reason. If there's a wrestling show that day, no, wrestling comes first.
Great White is kind of a semi-big band. They're still playing in front of thousands. You probably work Great White. Mark Farner, well, no longer Mark Farner's Grand Funk Railroad, but that would be one. And maybe LA Guns come up. They're on tour this year. We're going to talk about that next. And he can type apparently. So there you go. I suppose we can thank Lilith for that. Well, you're thanking somebody. Hit the follow button for the Indie Vision Network. They'll have more coverage coming up. And Godric Samuel suffers from stage fright, but you wouldn't know it.
That's shocking to me because he's so comfortable. I wouldn't every time I talk to him, he doesn't he's not he's a humble guy. He will not sit there and go, "Oh, I feel that I'm very good at speaking. I feel that I'm very verbose and intelligent." He won't say that. He might joke about it, but he
Sometimes people
won't.
hide it well. Listen, there are sometimes, listen, you just never know. And yeah, you've done pretty well, like I said. And yes, there he is, and plenty to go around. And next time you wish to try allow a gentleman to aid you, happy birthday. And while I have a few more minutes left of your birthday, it's Kevin from Rain Crew Day. So happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. And I specifically made sure it was June 26th because I gave to get bundles June 27th. So I made sure your birthday would be celebrated. So it is your
I
day.
appreciate that.
Happy birthday. We'll give you the physical copy when we're off the air. And thank you for all you do. And enjoy it. And we'll give you the physical copy. And we'll take this off the screen. Pepper is not called the Harpy Queen for no reason. Those feathers are more than for show. And he would know because he's wrestled Pepper Pride. You know better than anybody else. Always a pleasure and an honor for the gentleman of exquisite caliber, Mr. Godderson. One of my favorites, Kevin from Ring Crew. Haven't seen you for a long time. This is your good friend, Daniel Tafua. The man who wanted to be your champion. He wanted to be your champion.
He has been waiting for you to notice that comment probably at the edge of his seat.
Daniel Tafua. He's one of my favorites. Without even being here, he's one of my favorites.
All right, so the reason why I told you that he was waiting to do this, I went with him to the show where he won that USWA title. I went to the cover. Yes. I was covering because Day had defended his belt. Like he wrestled KJ Orso. Then he defended. He did a show. 2 matches at one company in Ohio, and then he came down to defend his USWA Keystone.
Yeah, Dave was talking about doing multiple because I had him on before
matches in 24 hours.
Yes.
So I figured let's go to the last one and see how gassed he is just to cover it because it's pretty impressive. And well, I couldn't get there easily, so I had to hitch a ride with a couple people, and Mr. Tafua and me are sitting in the back of this vehicle.
Yeah.
So he's all happy, you know, he's all giddy. He just won himself a belt. He's overjoyed, and he goes, "Oh, look, Tom's live." I was like, "All right, cool."
Oh, yeah.
So he goes into your chat, and he keeps commenting because he knows, you know, he's one of your favorites. So the whole time we're in this car, backseat of the car, he's like, "I can't wait for him to say it. I love it when he says it. I love it when he says it." And you did it, and you did it like 3 other times. I'm like, dude.
I mean, listen, I could say it all day. Daniel Tafua. I could say it all day. I mean, his name, when he comes up, when I see him here, I smile. I would bring him on here every day, but unfortunately, I've got like 100 million other people that have mouths that want to get on here. You know, if they would do a better job and you know, letting the world know, I mean, that'd be one thing.
He loves all of it. I
love having him on here. He's great. He is one of my
great guy. He's a great guy.
I like him. He's just, and he made such a strong case to win the Indie Vision Network Championship. Unfortunately, he couldn't get the job done, but he got the USWA Universal title instead. And that's why he's universally beloved with me, because he's Daniel Tafua. Yeah, say that again. Yeah, go Red Sox. Well, I'm a Mets fan, so I'll give you a pass on that. And that was the former co-host, and we wish him well out there on the campaign trail. Please go back and knock on doors tomorrow. And I hope the weather now, with it being a little cooler, will be kind for you now running for school board, because you've got to get your walking shoes on. Yeah, speaking of people that are ego, well, his group is called Ego. Mr. Austin James, how you doing, Austin, from DBW? He'll be in the ring this coming weekend. Speaking of people with dots, that's the boogeyman Omen Black, who I'm sure will be a topic Sunday night. It's been a minute with the guys. They'll be on here Sunday night, and how we all doing? Yeah, Rudy was. That's kind of like you guys at Ring Crew. You guys are all like Rudy. When you see all these big concerts and all these big bands, or all these big wrestling shows, you guys are like the Rudy of it all. You're like Charles S. Dutton's character, who played a character the complete opposite of that movie, Rock. He was an old show. It was called Rock, and he played, a different character. But he played Rudy. That was one of his best roles. Yeah, definitely congrats. We love seeing Omen, and he is the boogeyman. And it's his time of the year for the boogeyman. And hit the sub button there. Yep, who else we got here? Yes, Daniel Tafu. There he is. Wrestling is a variety show. Yeah, it should be all, like I said, Vinny and Dime always said 32 flavors, Baskin Robbins. You never know what you're going to get. And it's the same thing that applies in a wrestling world. And there you go. There you go. Hair metal is the best. I would kind of say that it is kind of what I'm known for on Sportswire. It is kind of my favorite genre. Yeah, I would be a hypocrite if I didn't say it wasn't, because look at who I've had on. I've had Zebra. I've had on Great White. Great White's definitely hair metal. Once Bitten, Twice Shy, and Lady Red Light, and, certainly having on Kicks. Don't Close Your Eyes. LA Guns is definitely hair metal. I've definitely, and I listen, Mark Farner, his new album that came out was written alongside Mark Slaughter of Slaughter. So, I guess at this point.
Sorry,
Yeah.
continue, and then I have something to add on to what she said.
I had to go for it because now I just stopped. Go ahead.
I apologize, Tom.
No, it's okay. It's your birthday. Go ahead.
So the funny part is when I said, my favorite my first two albums, like CDs, I remember listening front to back, like repeatedly, were Blizzard of Oz and Appetite for Destruction. So I got Ozzy on one side, Guns N' Roses on the other. So I like hair metal. I like, your classic heavy metal.
Guns N' Roses tried so hard not to be labeled as hair metal.
But they are.
Absolutely.
They are.
But they tried so hard not to be labeled as a hair metal band because they just didn't. They were all about, we're blues, we're hard rock, Certain bands tried desperately not to be labeled as that. But yeah, Ozzy, although ironically now Ozzy gets played on Sirius XM's Hair Nation. They play Ozzy on there, which is
and he's got his own station, doesn't he?
Ozzy's Boneyard. Listen, they play Ozzy on Ozzy's Boneyard. They played his last album on Liquid Metal, and they play him occasionally on Turbo because he guested on other songs. He did.
Did he do a Post Malone?
What's that?
He did. Did he do a Post Malone too?
And they also he did a spot with Cold Chamber, Shock the Monkey. They play on there because Cold Chamber came back. He did a spot with Rob Zombie. So, yeah, the Ozzy gets played on everywhere. But, yeah, Guns N' Roses was a hair band. But I got to be honest, Guns N' Roses was not one of my favorite bands. I appreciate Guns N' Roses, but I tell you what, I do have on cassette Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. I did like Use Your Illusion more than Appetite for Destruction. The only songs I liked on Appetite for Destruction, I liked My Michelle. I thought that was great. Night Train was good. And the other song I liked on Appetite for Destruction was Sweet Child of Mine. I like Sweet Child of Mine. That was a good one. Oh, and Paradise City. Actually, I'll give you 4. I'll give you 4 of them I like.
You're going to keep finding. Well, I actually kind of like it. It's music's interpretation. I like pretty much the whole album. You like, it's half the album. You like half of the album, I think, with how many you named?
Yeah, like
10 or so on
there. I gave you 4. What was the last one?
No, Mr. Tommy. Tommy's like, no, Mr. Brownstone. I know that's the chat, but
Mr. Brownstone's not one of my favorites. No, I did not like that one. Yeah, we're not on this. We're a family stage. No, but I know the lyrics. Then yeah, we're definitely not going to repeat those. Yeah.
But another big band, like the third album I ever listened to front to back was. All right, that was fun. Cats decided to knock over a TV. I'm going to have to.
Maybe they wanted you to talk more about it. Maybe they had an appetite for destruction.
They do. What a weird coincidence. But Slippery When Wet by Bon Jovi was also like the third album.
Yeah, well, one of my guests that comes on here, Sean Jovi's an absolute diehard Bon Jovi. I'm not a big Bon Jovi fan. I liked Keep the Faith. I can't say I'm a big Bon Jovi fan, but I appreciate their longevity. I have to say I
That's
didn't.
my mom's influence on my tastes.
Although I should say that if it wasn't for Bon Jovi, I'm probably not conceived because my parents always said I was conceived during like a Bon Jovi song or thought about. So, I have to say that if my mom's, who's definitely not listening to this, I was part and part born because of a Bon Jovi song. So I don't know which one. I don't want to know, but yeah, there's no question that Bon Jovi's not one of my favorites, but yeah, I mean, Guns N' Roses was okay. Appetite wasn't one of my favorites. I liked half the record. You got it right. Half the record I liked, about half. Ozzy, I loved Ozzy though. Ozzy was great. Ozzy, I still love Ozzy to this day. But great stuff. We'll let other people talk. Kills. Did Killswitch do CM Punk's song? Did they do
the original
the one before he did Cult
This
of
Fire
Personality?
Burns.
Oh, okay. And there's a new version of Cult of Personality, which is also a part of that. And yeah, POD did do Rey Mysterio. That's a good one. Yeah, Limp Bizkit did Undertakers for a while. Yeah, he did Kid
So did
Rock.
Kid Rock.
Yeah, Kid Rock.
We're not going to talk about him.
I'm not you know what? Leave aside the politics. I was never a big Kid Rock fan. I didn't buy into, like, he tried to be country. He tried to be rock. He tried to
be rap.
Yeah, I mean, leave aside what people's political beliefs are. I wasn't a big Kid Rock fan, Although I got to tell you, Limp Bizkit just opened up. Did you work the Metallica show recently? They did Philadelphia. You do Metallica 72 Seasons tour. Did you work that?
No, unfortunately, because depending on it, we don't travel too much. I think they did come to Pittsburgh, and I
because my mother went to the Philadelphia show, and believe it or not, she said Limp Bizkit was a really good opener. She was not a Limp Bizkit fan. Limp Bizkit was the opener for Metallica, and she said they were great. She said they were great. They were energetic. She was like, so I didn't thought of that.
I think people always give Limp Bizkit just a little bit of hassle because of Fred Durst, but like that's like saying Wes Borland's not a great guitarist, but he is.
Yeah. I think Limp Bizkit was revolutionary. I definitely think that Limp Bizkit their music sounds modern still. It wasn't my cup of tea, but I appreciate what they meant to a genre. And there's no question that there is a huge fan base still for Limp Bizkit. So, I mean, I think that's why, like, some of these bands still listen. Korn, is still an arena band. So I think there's no question that genre of music. Look at Linkin Park; they're continuing with another singer. And then, it's funny. People have asked me, so when are you going to interview like Limp Bizkit and Korn?
Well, when they stop selling out stadiums.
Yeah, who I've got on is not selling right now. I've got LA Guns. I just told you sold 4,000 records the first week. They'll come on. I got King's X, which is not selling. I have Mark Farner. He sold 1972.
Let's not get that is an impressive get anyway, because they may not be selling now. They are some legends of.
Oh, listen, I got to be honest. Listen, no, the fact that I got these bands and I get them without even trying now. I would like to get them every day, but that's a bit much. But let's get to some more comments. Yeah, vinyl. I remember vinyl making a comeback about 15 years ago. I don't know if you remember. You remember Virgin Records?
I know the name, yeah.
Virgin Records was the first place here in Manhattan that was selling vinyl again. This was about 15, 20 years ago. And that's when I thought vinyl was going to make a comeback, because then Metallica started selling their records on vinyl. Then it was AC/DC had made a comeback. They were selling on vinyl. And then it was like vinyl I knew was going to make a comeback. So yeah, there is a niche of people that feel like that the music always sounded better on vinyl. One of the reasons that CDs also kind of went, the sound from a CD does not sound as good as the sound on vinyl. Doesn't even sound as good as on a cassette. So even if you look at the quality, you sound better on vinyl. I think that's why vinyl has a niche audience. Courtney has every Steel Panther album on CD. Well,
she loves Steel Panther.
I know, and she wants me to get them on Sportswire. Well, Courtney, have them call me because I've contacted them. Maybe we'll find out. I'll ask when I have LA Guns on, because they know Steel Panther. We'll see. Want to say hello to my buddies in BCW. They have a show coming up on Saturday in Ben Salem. Thank you for that. And we'll say hello to you. RK Sawyer kidnapped my kid, took him to Texas, and poured bleach in his eye.
I remember this. That was an interesting time. Apparently, when you
Yeah.
do it in a wrestling sense, apparently the police won't look into it.
Yeah.
So if
Well,
whatever you do at a wrestling show, apparently you just get away with it unless the police are in the building. They will not even attempt.
is there any chance that R.K. Sawyer is related to Tom Sawyer? You know, because obviously, and his mind is
He
never rest.
listen. That could just be an alias for all we know. That he might like Rush. Who knows?
I love Rush. Actually, they're actually probably like my favorite band. You know, I
One,
actually
one
would
of the
say
best
Rush.
bassists of all time. Let's not and one of the
Oh,
best drummers of all time too.
yeah, no, and listen, Geddy Lee had a period of time that he played synthesizer. I mean, you have to remember he played two instruments and sang at the same time. He was doing that for a period of time.
I
Yeah,
can't
Rush.
play one instrument.
Yeah, and Alex Lifeson. Listen, but they got too. I like the synthesizer era, but they got too into it because Alex Lifeson was even playing synthesizers. They got to a period of time. If you listen to like Power Windows, Hold Your Fire, and they were playing synthesizers and bass and guitar at the same time. So yeah, there was a period of time that they got too much into it. But yeah, we're not going to go too much into that. Speaking of, I have some business with Mr. Sawyer. So Mr. Tafura has some business with him, and he loved the story of USWA. And thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like I should give you more love because I don't bring you on my platform enough. But we'll see what he wants to do. Kevin, you know you want to say his name once. You guys say the name once. Come on. Say it with poise. You can breathe. It's okay. You're alive, baby, in prime time.
Should I do a whole thing or just the last part? Because
Do
I
the
don't know
last
which part he
part
wants to
because I
do.
know we're getting
All right.
late. I know we're getting late.
Tafua!
That was good. I tell you what, that was like a ring introduction. That was like, you got to go now, dude. I'm sure I'm going to tell Timothy Titan when he comes in next week that he needs to hire you. And I have Michael McMoney on tomorrow. Hopefully, he'll have something to say other than what's happening in other places. Yeah, I don't know, Mr. Brownstone. I just wasn't. I didn't like the song. You know, Rocket Queen. I would have given you as my fifth. I'll give you Rocket Queen. It's So Easy was okay. Was that the one with the bass? With the bass intro? It's So Easy. That was okay. Yeah, you're probably. I'll give you 5.5. I'll give you 5.5. That's the best song on the album. Yeah, I know. Well, he's a musician. He's not. Now he's not going to want to come on Sportswire. What can I tell you?
He still will. We'll make sure he's contractually obligated to come on Sportswire.
Although it's funny, you know what? I should bring this up because LA little backstory. LA Guns, by the way, LA Guns actually was actually a part of Guns N' Roses. Tracy Guns was in Guns N' Roses. I mean, I have to bring that up on when I have Guns. You know, I have LA Guns on. I don't know if people know that here that LA Guns and Guns N' Roses, they were a band, and well, Tracy Guns was in that band. He was in Guns N' Roses, and then he formed his own band, you know. And
that's how it works a lot, though. A lot of bands split up and go different ways, and they form.
Megadeth. Look at Megadeth.
Yeah.
Dave Mustaine. You know, that's the biggest example. Megadeth. He was in Metallica. They threw him off the bus, and then he's like, "I'm going to make my own band." And
Ox goes. I'm sorry. You got to get to that Ox comment. That's great. Oh, that just derailed me. The last one he just put. Let's talk.
Doobie Brothers. What we got? We got Doobie Brothers.
We're gonna talk some Kenny Loggins right now.
Doobie Brothers, right? Doobie Brothers. Michael McDonald. What's yacht? Jimmy. You got Jimmy Buffett. Yacht Rock. You say Yacht Rock. Jimmy Buffett.
I'd listen to if I had a yacht. I'd be listening to Jimmy Buffett. I'll tell you that right now.
38 Special maybe is Yacht Rock. I'd say 38 Special. I heard a 38 Special song the other day. I'd say 38 Special. Who else?
That was the other. That was the other brother that was related to Van Zandt, right?
What's about Ronnie Van Zant?
Yeah. The original singer of Skinner wasn't one of his brothers.
I think
singer
so.
I can't remember. Yeah, I was like something like that, or he took over.
Yeah, Skinner. Well, Skinner's not yacht rock. They're southern rock. But yeah. I mean, I can listen. There's a station on Sirius XM that actually plays yacht rock. I don't know if he knows that or not. But you
Ox is gonna have to give us a history of yacht rock next time.
I've actually, well, you know what? If you're out there in the chat, you want these bands to come on. If they're out of rotation now, they might come on. They might come on Sportswire. You might actually get them on because we've had on some of these bands. They might actually look at my profile because LA Guns came out of nowhere. Literally, I get an email. Hey, do you want to have LA Guns on? I'm like, yeah, they have a new album out. I'll if you listen, if you want the Doobie Brothers on, I think the Eagles would be Yacht Rock. Eagles is Yacht Rock. Don Henley would be Yacht Rock. I like one or two Don Henley. I think
Now
Don
Boys in
Henley.
Summer is stuck in my head.
I like the Dirty Laundry. Dun, 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 dun. But that's a no good one. Yeah, I mean, I'll do it. Listen, you tell me, I'll do it. I mean, she's not thanking me, obviously, but she likes Mr. Brown's. I don't like it. I don't like. I don't even like Welcome to the Jungle. I don't like Welcome to the Jungle either. I think it's too. It's a great
Overplayed.
opening. Yeah, but it's a great opener for an album. Listen, if all right, we'll get to closing thoughts in a few minutes, but if you're gonna get into rock, you're out in almost obligatory introductory albums, or let's be honest, it's Appetite for Destruction, Back in Black, it's Hysteria, and it's the Black Album from Metallica. So if you're gonna go into
I would throw Blizzard in there. I'm just saying I would throw
yeah,
Blizzard
but
in
it
there.
didn't. But Blizzard of Ozzy didn't. So if like look at it like this: if I'm in high school or if I'm in school, right, the kids are gonna listen. It's almost accessible enough. You got to be accessible. Blizzard of Oz, yes, Ozzy, but he's not as accessible as like Back in Black. Remember, it's like it's still accessible enough for kids in a football game. The girls, it's like it's hard, but it's not hard enough. You know what I'm saying? Like the Black Album is like that. It's you think about Def Leppard Hysteria is like that. Slippery When Wet is like that. And then Appetite for Destruction, because you've got the ballad. You got Sweet Child O' Mine, you got Paradise City, and then for the game types, you got Appetite for Destruction's Welcome to the Jungle to start the album. So really, you got Ozzy, and I love Ozzy. I love Blizzard of Oz, and I love Diary of a Madman. But it's not as accessible. Yeah, I actually like Diary of a Madman more than Blizzard of Oz, but
I don't blame you on that one. I'm going to be honest.
I mean, Over the Mountain, Over the Mountain, SOS, Little Dolls. I mean, that, in some of the backyard wrestlers that came on this platform might have played with Little Dolls. But listen, I mean, I loved Diary of a Madman more because the guitar work was more. Listen, Blizzard of Oz was great. Listen, I love No Bone Movies. That's one of the ones nobody talks about that. No Bone Movies on Blizzard of Oz. I mean, everybody talks about Mr. Crowley, Crazy Train, but there's some deep cuts on Blizzard, Goodbye to Romance, Goodbye to Romance. I mean, those are great.
That is the one that obviously mind drawing a blank because we're getting late here, and I know you want to get to the closing thoughts, but I will say that is definitely the sleeper of the album for me.
It was, yeah.
That is the sleeper of the album for me.
Absolutely, that was the one. But you know what Ozzy did well with was he was heavy, but he always again had the one slow song. He always. To credit, he always made sure he always got one song with Ozzy that somebody could listen to. And that's how he always stayed relevant. He always had every album go on until recently. Now Ozzy's become a joke of himself, but his heyday up until like Osmosis, anything after Osmosis, it's became Sharon, formatted him. But he always had one ballad or one song that everybody could go into with the cigarette. I remember, get your cigarette. Let me see your cigarette light. He always had that. He knew to get the one hit on there. He always had the one, but he did it. But what Ozzy always did good at is that he didn't do it to just have a commercial hit. Ozzy loved John Lennon. He always did it for the right reason. It wasn't like I need the cash grab. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, bands give me the cash grab. Ozzy never did that for the cash grab. So that's why Ozzy, to me, he was great with his ballads. He was great with those songs because, like I said, he was doing it. And that's why, like Blizzard of Oz, to me, he, Goodbye to Romance, I think might have been, and it meant talking about him with Sabbath, him leaving, starting a new era, but everybody talks about, listen, the big hits. They talk about the stuff. It's an album again, Suicide's, don't ask me, I don't know. I mean, listen, Steal Away the Night's another good one. Eddie Trunk used to play the one. And, Eddie Trunk, I don't know if you have, but yes, happy birthday, Kevin.
Thanks again,
and that was really good. And I have to have you introduce me. You can be as Paul Heyman. What do you think about just being a wrestling manager? You be a wrestling manager instead.
I'd have to come up with my own my own cadence. I don't think I can just steal Paul Heyman's without something
You
going.
got more hair than him right now. He doesn't have any hair.
I'll chop some of it down. I'll get the rat tail and we'll
Nah,
talk.
don't do the rat tail. Neil Peart used to have the rat tail, by the way, in the 80s. He had the weird look. He cut his hair and then he had the rat tail for like the longest time. The rat tail, I don't know. Undertaker has it now. Yeah, Sirius XM, I'm always on. Speaking to people, the legendary Doc Hollis, like, what the hell did I walk into? And yeah, definitely, yes. And if you want any political advice, I'll give it to you free. And yes, please knock on doors, ID your voters, and make sure you have a Google Drive, and I hope you have an Excel file, and make sure you're contacting your voter you've identified 5 times or more. And there you go. Manager is my thing. Well, you've had
He was also
listen.
a manager of Jenna Phage, by the way. They had two at
Oh,
one time.
well, now he's managing his own campaign, hopefully. And don't pay any consultants. My other piece of information, don't pay any consultants. They call them grifters in politics. But you're running for school board, not city council. In New York, just so you know real quick, in politics, whether it's Republican or Democrat, consultants are called basically grifters because all they basically do is they sit here and they go like this and they tell you what you want to hear, but they actually do nothing and they basically rob your campaign of money. So you're basically raising money not to get votes, but to pay people to tell you what to do when you should do it. So different show for a different time. Thought that would be funny. But is there anything else you want to talk about? You should be here more often. You seem like for a guy that wasn't sure what to say, you said plenty.
I Also, that's the nervousness. Just keep talking. You won't be nervous because you won't have to think about
I
it.
carried the conversation. I could have talked for 12 hours with you. You got plenty to talk about. I feel like I could have talked to you about music the whole time.
So I'll just to close it where we started it, basically with wrestling. And again, now that he's here and we can talk about it, me and Eric Johnson, like I said, started Indie Vision and just as a hey, let's give it a shot. And the fact that it's grown to the point, and I don't know if he's been paying attention because he's been busy, but he can listen. Hey, we got a title now. We got a champ. We're getting names on. It's a whole thing. And I've
A
always
picture now, by the way, of all three of
yeah.
you. How about that?
We also the door is open to him. If the politics don't pan out, he is welcome to come back. By
Yeah,
the
he
way, we'll
should.
give him
But, no, you could do both. Listen, I do both. You can still do both. Listen.
he his so the only problem that it's been is when he left, he didn't really say that he wanted. And again, I'm paraphrasing. We've had conversations. He moved away as well up into a different part of PA,
Uh,
not too far. He's about an hour away, but it's harder for us with our date. I have 2 shoot jobs. I have the ring crew stuff. I have trainings, all this stuff, and it's harder for us to communicate. And I'd love to have him back, if not just for a couple segments of me and him, the OG crew doing something stupid together. Honestly, honestly, like it just I got into wrestling to want to live a dream. This was a dream that me and him had. We both lived it. He chose something else, which again, nothing against him. He chose another dream is too. He's always got the door to come back. I've always told him that. It was a whole, hey, it's yours now. You own it because we were together as the 2 founders. That's why it says CEO and not owner. But
I can say owner. I can say owner on mine though.
yeah, that's why mine says CEO because technically we founded it together. But
I see. I see.
so it's just amazing where it's come from and where it could be going. I mean, I'm giving you your flowers for a minute. You have been such a wonderful person,
Oh,
and you don't need to be. Tom, I give you your flowers here. Y- I don't know why. You just love our stuff, and I can't thank you
I
enough.
love. You know what? I see a lot. I tell you what I like, and I said this to Timmy. We were on a Facebook call. I won't say the details. We were on a call. I think Tommy was on that call, maybe like 2 months ago, whatever it was, and I see a lot of what you're covering, what I'm covering. A lot of people would say, "Oh, well, they're peers of yours. Maybe you should box them out." No, I look at it like, look, we're all on the same team. I'm all Wrestling Matters, and I see you guys covering and talking to people in the same genre I am. So I look at it like we're all doing the same thing. So if we're all together, we're all working on, for the same thing is to promote a sport that we love, whether it's you guys being a part of it in some form, this platform being here. And I look at wrestling, it's given me so much. We talk about these bands, right? I wouldn't be able to have talked to these big bands if it wasn't for wrestling. My following comes from wrestling. Yes, I'm getting these bands now, but the bands wouldn't have came on if they didn't see the amount of subscribers I have on the YouTube or how many Facebook followers I have. But they're coming on. So wrestling has given me an opportunity. Wrestling, I know Eric's doing politics. Wrestling got me back in news, doing news a day a week because my co-host saw that I'm this over-the-top guy that does this. So I feel like that, I feel like we're all on the same team, and you guys are good because you don't fucking do large intros like me. You are well versed. You're knowledgeable, and I'm not. There's things that you know about in this sport that I don't know. So I think to me, I enjoyed listening to the shows, and I can't wait for you to do more. And I'm looking forward to Brohemoth being here, and hopefully I'll be half as good as.
He's an interesting talk.
I know. I was talking to him the other day.
He's definitely, since that interview, me and him have talked a lot more, and I'm getting to know him more and more. And just the more I learn, the more we talk, joke, all that stuff. It's been really interesting because I'd never met Bro before that interview. I've heard of him. I've seen his work, never talked to him. And that was my first introduction to him. And from there, we've talked.
But that's what wrestling, you know what? And I look at Sportswire right before we go, and you said to me, well, why are you interested in what we do? I can't tell you enough on how many times over the 5 years I'm doing this. I can't tell you enough. There's been so many times somebody said to me, hey, I saw somebody at a show and I saw him on Sportswire, even if the show views are not that many. But people will tell me, I got into that person because I was on Sportswire, or I'm wrestling a show and I saw that guy and I was like, hey, we're on Sportswire. I saw you in the chat. Or, they met somebody or they traveled somewhere because of here. So to me, it's the same thing with the indie vision with you guys. Why not connect and maybe bring in people that maybe they see it on here and they want to follow guys like Godric Sandwell or Dave Jameson or Brohemoth or Jace Carr. To me, that's what we're all here about. To me, it's all about networking. It's all about collaborating, right? And I think that's why I see a lot of what you guys. It was fun. I enjoy listening. I'm not going to ask people though about are you smarter than a fifth grader question. I mean, you guys certainly some funny questions too, stuff that I can't do on here. But I really think you guys add something to the table that I think it's great. So I'm going to keep telling people to watch it. I'm going to keep telling people to follow you guys on Instagram. And I'm going to keep telling people that it's your day and you better be back here in the coming weeks. And I really hope you do some big contests so I can talk about them. I want to talk about some more bands. I want to talk about whatever you do in the wrestling journey. And thank you, by the way, for all you do for our sport. Thank you for going out there and doing a thankless job. I know you're getting paid for it. I get that. But thank you for doing something that is not easy to do. Thank you for doing something. And without guys like you and the crew that you work with, we don't have a wrestling ring. It's not like, it's not like going to a basketball court. I go to a basketball court, here in New York City. Yeah, I go and shoot. I ain't got to put it together. I go play baseball. I don't got to go put the field together. I go, hockey. Okay, hockey, you have to put a ring together. Yes. Okay, hockey's different. But I go to a football field. Field's already put together. To go wrestle, seriously wrestle, it's not yeoman's work. You got to go out there. Without people like you, this doesn't exist. So I say thank you for putting your blood, sweat, and tears out there, because in some ways you are more important than anybody else, because without you and your hands and your ability to put this all together, there's nothing. So I just want to say thank you very much for all that you do for our sport. And you guys mean a lot. And I hope that the people know that without all of you and your stage hands, that none of this exists. So thank you for all you do for our sport.
And I will say it's a fun time. It might sometimes seem like it's a thankless job, but just to see the fact that WWE, AEW, the local indie show
Yeah.
And to see the appreciate, because the guys go out there, they put their blood, sweat, and tears in the ring, and to know that nothing broke and everything was safe and everything like that, it's 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 kind of like that rewarding feeling, because
Yeah.
like, hey, nothing went wrong. It's like the guy who does the pre-flight checklist, like, okay, like, all right, we're good. Success. That's why people clap on the
No,
plane landed.
it's important. Now, listen, what you all do, it's, you really, I mean, you do God's work. I mean, there's no question that all of you do things that people don't even see behind the scenes. And I always look at being on Sportswire. I try as hard as I can to thank our wrestlers, and this should be a celebration every time we're on the air. And that's why tonight was very special. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for everything. And you better not be a stranger. I can't wait to listen to the next show you guys have and watch it. Everybody, if you're here, please support Kevin, Tommy, Timothy, and all the other people out there. The best is yet to come, regardless of what you've seen out there in other places and other companies in Pittsburgh. I promise you we'll get past it. I promise you there's an old adage, a rising tide will always lift all boats. And I have no doubt that this man literally is the definition of that. And all of you out there, if you're going through something, I promise you it'll get better. Better days are ahead, wherever it might be. The best is yet to come. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful rest of your evening and morning and birthday. And better not be a stranger. Get over your stage fright and listen to Def Leppard Stage Fright to get over it. And we'll see you out there in the ring, whether it's inside or outside. And thank you for all you do for our sport.
And
And
thank you, Tom.
congratulations.
Thank you for having
You
me
got it.
on.
You got it. That was Kevin from Ring Crew, and it is his day, and well, it was his day, depending on where you are. And wish him a happy birthday for us. And check out the Indie Vision Network. You can check it out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and they'll have more stuff away ahead. And check it out. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Your voice, figuratively and literally, with all music and wrestling matters. We'll be here tonight or tomorrow, depending where you are, with Michael McMoney. I have no idea what we'll get into, but it'll not be what you've seen on Facebook. But we'll talk about something because we don't want LA Guns to, let's just say, go bang bang on us and not come on Sportswire. So we do have to be careful what we say on here because we like having LA Guns and others on here because, well, maybe if Courtney can pull a string or two, maybe Steel Panther will be next. But we'll figure it out. Thank you, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one Global Radio, Sportswire Radio, where all music and wrestling matters. Have a great night, everybody.